Hello everyone, welcome to the next session on SAP Fiori Launchpad training. In the last class, we discussed about creation of a custom Fiori application by making use of a standard OData service available out of the box from NetWeaver Gateway for developer scenario. Towards the end of the session, we were unable to create the entity set data because the OData service system was not allowing us to create an Z implementation of a standard OData service. In today's session, we will continue our discussion and try to build this app. At the same time, we will also look at the concepts of using the application built using SAP Fiori Web IDE in Eclipse. So how can you download the project and put it as part of Eclipse to develop your applications from Eclipse? And then we will also talk about Git repository. So let's begin our session. What we have done so far, we have created a simple master detail application from template, and we have modified this particular application little bit. So when I run this application, it is connecting to my ECC system and pulling the data for products entity set from the OData service. What I did now is I have got another server where I have a developer key, and I now want to use this server to call my OData. So you can see the server is S4H. I can go back to the system S4H and now show you that this also has an OData service which I can use to perform the same things what I was doing yesterday in another server. So this also has the simple developer scenario service which you can use to display the product data. So let's execute this particular service. I just say remember, allow, and you can see it's giving me the data. In NetWeaver Gateway client, I can see the data. So it is the same service with same contract. All the entity sets and stuff like that are all same. Okay. And the best part is it's an S4HANA system, which I can make use to also show you one scenario on analytical app. So maybe in the next session, we will discuss about that scenario of analytical app in this system, because this system is based on HANA as the database. So we can make use of this to also create an analytical app, which I will show you in the next class. Now, what I will do is I will go ahead and make use of this OData service and this particular new system S4H. So what I did before the class, I have created the destination. As we all know, in the local web ID, we have to have the destination created. So I went inside the web ID folder and I created one destination file for S4H system. Let me just rename this file to .txt and show you what I've done in this. It's the same thing what we learned earlier. I've just provided a description, S4HANA system, HTTP, trust all, no authentication. The UGS is going to be for OData consumption and deployment of my app to the web system. Name is S4H, web ID is true, and I've given the URL of the system. How do you get this URL? It's very simple. You can go back to your gateway client, execute your service over here, and you will get the URL over here. You can see S4HANA way to ERP.com. 8000 is the port number. So that is what I have done here. S4HANA 1.way2erp.com, 8000 is the port number. And then you have internet, and just also mention S4H as the web IDE system. I created this file and make sure that it should not have any extension at all. It should not have any txt or anything as an extension. So the file has to be without extension. So let me remove it back and say okay. So now this destination will be created. So I have two destinations, one for ECC and one for S4H. Yesterday we created our Fiori app in Web IDE using template with ECC system. But now I have to go back and change this from ECC system to my new system, which is S4H. Yeah. So can anybody tell me which file of your project contains the information about destination system? Anybody? Which file does contain? Deep has got the right answer. It's neoapp.json. So let's come to neoapp.json, not manifest. So Rupa, your answer is incorrect. Manifest does not contain the information about the destination to which you want to connect because it is independent of project. Okay, your manifest contain the service name, but it doesn't contain the destination name. So you remember new app JSON is responsible for connection to the destination. So it's a channel between your web IDE and the gateway system. That's what new app.json is. And you can see here at the bottom for this path, it contains destination ECC right now. So now I've created another destination called S4H. Let me just change it over here, the name of destination. So it will now go and talk to S4H. Also, I'll change the description to S4H. Click on save. So same project now will connect with this small change to the S4H system. I don't need to change anything at all, provided my metadata remains same in both the system for the service, which is same as we know. It's a standard OData service provided by SAP. So the metadata of the service is same in both the systems. Just come here and change the system to S4H. That's it. Let's execute it and see the response. So I right click here. I don't want to run it with the mock server. So I will run it Fiori component with server, and let's see what happens. So now this what exactly we did. So this way you can also test from your web IDE guys to multiple systems. So let's say your development, quality, and production. So you created a Fiori app. You can simply come and have 3 destinations in your destination folder, and then let's say created with development, so you can quickly change the destination and connect it to your production system. I would not recommend you to connect to production because we don't want to directly change from local system to production anything, but always make sure that you can do it with quality sandbox or your development system. Same app code can be connected multiple systems, which was little difficult in Eclipse. Yeah. So now you see there's an error coming when I'm trying to connect to that system. Let's see what's the error. So I can't really look at this whole error here. So I just make a copy of this error, come to a notepad and just check here what's the problem. So it says SAP OPU OData IWBEP EPM developer scenario service is having some issue. So let's check in our S4H system, is the service name correct? So it's EPM developer scenarios SRV. Let's see if it is correct. So I come back to my gateway client and I see here the service name is ZEPM developer scenario SRV. It is not EPM developer scenario SRV. Also, I do see a problem in prefix. It's SAP OPU OData SAP, but the one which is referenced here is different. Yeah, if you just come and see, it is SAP OPU OData IWBEP, which is incorrect. So we probably got to now change this entire service name along with its prefix into our project to connect it to S4HANA system. So let's copy this. Can anybody tell me which file of your web IDE project do contain the information about OData service? Anybody? Manifest.json, correct answer. Let's go back. Very good, Deep. Very good. You remember all the concepts. I like it. Go to manifest.json and now here you go. This is your service details and just got to change this one. And I just place here. You can see ZEPM developer scenario SRV. I put it. I save this now. Let's go back and test it now. Refresh the page. It should now go and connect to the S4HANA system because we changed destination. Or also should talk to the OData service over there because we changed the service name and corrected the service name as well. So now it should pull, and wow, what an amazing thing. You see the same project without additional change is actually working fine. Yeah, that's the power. That's the power, guys. Yeah. Now let's try to do an add. Let's see if maybe this service is implemented. The post operation we saw yesterday, it was not implemented. So now let's go and check if it is implemented. So I come here, click on add button. And yeah, I think it's not implemented. Let's look at the response. So maybe we got to go with the custom service and try to use that. So let's see the response in Notepad. It's saying not implemented. which means your method, which is create products, create entity, is not yet implemented in the service. So we got to go and enhance this OData service now in S4H system to support this method of create. So let's do that. Pretty simple. We got to close this, and now what we're going to do is here in this we are going to implement it. So let me go to SEGW, and remember guys, it's not a central hub based deployment. It's basically sorry, it's a central hub scenario. It's not a distributed system. So we have everything, both the project as well as the service activation, done in single system. So now let's create a new project. So we just name it as ZEPM developer scenario for test, and I just say okay, it's created. Let's expand here data model, right click and say redefine OData service, and we got to choose the OData service which is standard and its version, and I would like to copy everything, just make a replica of the one which is standard, and yes, it's created. Let's generate the runtime artifacts now. So here we go. Yesterday it was not working in another system because we don't have developer key there. So fortunately I found this S4H system where it is there, and you see all the artifacts are now generated. Perfect. Let's go to the runtime artifact for DPC extension. I make a copy of this, put it in my notepad. This is really helpful. And just make a copy of my extension class name and just go to SE24, and there we got to implement the method. So let's change, and we know that they have not implemented in the standard the create entity set method for products. We got to implement it ourselves. So let's come down, products create entity set, here it is. Let's do a redefinition in our Z implementation, and now we got to make a call to do this. Now I can't see the import data, so let's click on signature to look at the input data, and I do have IO data provider which provides me the right data. Yeah, so IO data provider, and then read entry data, and we got to declare a local structure which is of type entity type. Yeah, so let's declare this entity type data, this type, this is the data type which we should refer, ls entity. We all learned about this development, ABAP development for OData in the last course. Hope you all remember. I'm not going to explain all of this again. I'll just go and now call a function module. Can anybody tell me the function module to create a product for EPM model? Anybody? If you all remember, anybody remember last course? What is the function module name to create a new product for EPM model? Anybody? We have discussed about perfect answer, Shri. It is BAPI underscore EPM underscore product, and then probably just do a star and check it over here. Yes, you see all the functions. We use the create function, click on OK. It's created here, and now you have header data. Let's declare this header data. Remember, the signature of header is different than the entity. So for this, it's BAPI underscore EPM product header. Yeah, and now just move the corresponding data which you got from the service ls entity to this, and let's pump in this data. Perfect. It returns you something, so you can just always check if the return is okay, then maybe your creation is successful. Let's declare this data lt return type table of BAPI underscore RET2. I don't know the return type. I don't know the return type, I think. So maybe I got to go back and check in the BAPI what is the data type it really returns. So I got to check that, and then after we will see what should be the correct type of internal table we should really create. Yeah, that's what we need to do. So let's, okay, oops, looks like my server connection gone, guys. Give me a second, I got to reconnect. So let me just reconnect here. In the meantime, there is one question here. Prefix of O data depends on what? It depends on the development scenario or the deployment options. So if your system is actually deployed as a central hub scenario, then it will be different. And if it is done as distributed system development, let's say you have both the gateway and the ERP functionality in single system, it will be different. And if you have a distributed one, then it will be different. That's what the prefix depends on. Yeah. Okay. So I just enter my password to connect once again. I'll share my screen, guys. Just give me a second. I'm trying to connect back to the server. Today the server is very slow, so I somehow managed to work with it, but can't really help if it is slow. It's still taking time to connect, so let's wait. Okay, so there you go. And I now double click on the BAPI first to just quickly check what is the return type, what it gives me back. And I say BAPI RET2, there's no underscore. So that's the return type for BAPI. I'm just going to put this over here and create a work area for the BAPI. And let's do a loop LT return into LS return. And just maybe we can just do a read also, not a problem. So read table LT return into my work area LS return with key message type is error, if at all there is an error. Okay, if there is an error in the return, then definitely I would have to give an exception. Yeah, so if psi hyphen subrc is equals to 0, then probably I give an exception. So you all know that there are two type of exception which we can always throw. So in this case it's a business type exception. So raise exception type my class name, and we all know what we need to do. So we will pass typically the BAPI related errors directly in the output parameter. Yeah, so that's what we got to do. Yeah, it's always a good practice to keep a space after the type condition. And now I pump in the message container. So I use mo context object and I say get message container. Yeah, correct. And same thing, get message container. Before we really do so, we got to populate the message container by adding the messages from BAPI. This all we did in the last course. Same thing I'm reusing, and I'm just preparing my message container object and passing this message container object to the exception. Rest all the code which is commented is not required. Just to keep it clean, I remove this commented line of code. So that's the error handling part. If at all there is any error returned from BAPI, we are going to throw an exception. Else, we are going to return the data which we receive back from it. So ls header, we got to transfer it back to it. So move corresponding ls header to ER entity. Perfect. Now do a quick check. Looks okay. Activate it. My code is ready. Now I can quickly go back and test this operation in Postman. You remember Postman, our friend yesterday? So let's try this one now. So maybe I go back to my gateway client and try to run this service in the browser. Okay, so let me try to run this in the browser. So /n/iwfnd/gateway, sorry, main service, and try to find out the right service by applying the filter. The service name was EPM, and now over here we got to find the service. Where is my developer scenario service? Scroll down. Okay, we did not register it yet. Okay, we got to register it now. So say add service, and I say star EPM star. Let's see if we can find our service over here. Yes, you can see here, guys, we created one Z service, so it's available. ZEPM developer scenario SRV is created. Let's register the service. It's a one time effort. You remember we made a custom project now, so we are registering this one as a custom service. So it's done now. Let's come back and again apply the filter based on EPM to find the service over here. And let's scroll down to see where it is registered. Here it is. You can see ZEPM developer scenario service 1 _ 01. Now click on call browser to just launch the service metadata. Yes, it's loaded. Now I'm going to use the same thing to actually make a call from my Postman plugin. So let's come to Postman plugin and do a get request one more time on this. Yeah. So just perform the get request on products $$ format equals to JSON. Perfect. Now let's see what does the Postman does. It goes, hits your server with the username, password. It pulls in all the information. Yes, there you go. It has got you some product data. I copy this product data now to basically go ahead and create a body for my post operation. Yeah. Now, if you remember also yesterday we saw how to fetch the CSRF token. So I think it would have also fetched the CSRF token. In the meantime, I put this body into my notepad just to keep it clean, or maybe we can use jsonlint.com. There it will also check if the JSON what we are really using is proper or not. So just go to jsonlint.com and put this JSON data to verify if it's a correct JSON. Yeah, just go to JSON lint over here, and we're going to place this JSON what we have as a get operation to prepare my body for the post and check this. So let's go to JSON lint over here and just try to create the JSON. It's always a good practice. So everything is well connected with the previous course. Whatever we learned there, we are now really using all this knowledge to do the stuff. So many of the things are repeated for you here. So let's validate the JSON. It's a valid JSON. Perfect. I keep it the JSON over here, but in the meantime I need the token. So let's go to headers. It should have fetched the token, and that's the CSRF token, guys. So we also keep this token somewhere here in the notepad, and now I got to perform a post operation. So let's change here all of this. No format is required. Just put your entity set name products, change the operation type to post operation, and in the CSRF token we got to now give the CSRF token which we copied, paste it, and just go to body and click raw body of type a JSON text. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we will place here all the data what we have already in the jsonlint.com. Let me place it, guys, over here and change the data based on my needs. So I want to create a new product called DD-9999. Right now it's not there. And let me give the name here, Anubhav Web IDE demo. Yeah, so that's the product I want to create. Let me just put Anubhav testing OData post. And now let's try this post request, guys, and wish that it really calls the create entity set for your data. So everything looks okay. We also make sure that you put the CSR of token and make a send request now from here. And let's look at the body response. An exception has been raised, guys. See, there is an exception which has been raised. What is the exception? EPM problem, creation of the product header element has failed. Invalid tax tariff code 0. That's the problem, guys. So you see our it's hitting our create method, guys, and there we already did the exception handling. In case BAPI returns any error, return it back to the caller. So this way, if you are working as an OData developer, it's really a lifesaver thing for you, right? Because you got to don't have to debug it. You've done the exception handling well. The person who is making a call to your OData can easily understand what is that which is wrong. And you see in this case tax tariff code is a problem, and I don't think so we do have a tax tariff code at all mentioned here in this. Yeah, it's not been given, so we got to give the tax tariff code. Let me just check the get call once again with the system. We got to make sure that the tax tariff code is provided. So it's not even there in the get call. So we got to pass the tax tariff code. Because of that, it's failing. Yeah. So let's go back to the body and we got to supply the tax tariff code. Let me see. I don't remember the property name. So I go back to the project and check it out in the project, in the metadata of the service. What is the text? What is the property name? Yeah. So let me check the metadata, guys. So we just come here and say $metadata of the OData service, and for the products entity set, this is the product entity type, and you should find the tax tariff code here. Oops, it's not there at all. See, the tax tariff code is not there at all in the OData properties. See, it's not there. So there are two options. Option one is you add the tax tariff code. Option number two is you hard code it right now inside your service implementation. Yeah, so let me hard code it right now in the service implementation in ls header. I just put hyphen tax tariff code. Here it is. I just got to hard code it to I don't know the right value. Maybe just let me check. I just put EA. Let me see if this one really helps. I activated the service. Let's come back to the postman and call the postman to again make a call and just perform this operation, a post operation. Let's do a post one more time, guys, and let's see the response, whether it creates the product or not. Again, there is an error which is coming. It's saying some IW-D error. Maybe its tax tariff code is not a character. Maybe let me try putting 01. It's a number, so that could be the issue. So come back and check, guys, one more time, a post request one more time. Invalid business partner ID 1110. Now you see the tax tariff code issue is gone, which means it has picked up the right tax tariff code, but the business partner ID is incorrect now. So invalid business partner ID. So we will also hard code right now the business partner ID, or are we supplying the business partner ID? I don't know. Maybe let me check. So we go back to the postman and look at the body. Yes, we are passing the supplier ID, and let me just try to check if what is the correct supplier ID. Maybe I just try with 00001 and do a send one more time. No, BP ID is incorrect, guys. So business partner ID is incorrect. Maybe 10. I'm just guessing. I don't know. Maybe if it doesn't work, I will go back and check the database table for EPM model. It's not there, guys. So let me go back and check the database table in the EPM model. So SE11, go to SE11 transaction to see the database table name, and let's try if it gives me the list of tables available here. Maybe we will look forward, we will search for the database table by using F4, and in the description we type star EPM star, and let's see if what's the table name. Yes, here it is. You can see SNWD BPA business partner table for EPM model. This is the right table, and we got to check some business partner ID. That's what I want. A BP ID is what I want. Any BP ID should be okay. So let me just pick up one BP ID randomly, and it's this one. You see BP ID 100007. I will pick this up because I just want my call to be successful. A post call I want to test. So just pick any random data for that matter, just to check the post request. So in the supplier ID now I pump in and say send. Now there's another error. See, okay, it's saying invalid BP ID one more time. So what's the problem? I think there is something called BP ID property which we have not passed. Let's debug this. So what I do now is put an external breakpoint. Yeah. So I had put an external breakpoint to really see what's going wrong. Yeah. Let me check. So let's make a call again, postman request, and this time it should hit your breakpoint, guys. Yes, voila, it's hitting the breakpoint. We got to check what's the right data which is supplied to LS header. Let's see LS header. What is the data which is being supplied? So this is the data which is being supplied. It's not really considering this business partner ID correctly, maybe. So type code is coming empty. I don't know, but maybe let's see. Now this is the BAPI call. I press F6 and BAPI gives me a return, and this BAPI return contains invalid business partner ID. So it's not really considering the business partner ID correct, and that's what it's returning you back. Maybe we will try another business partner ID. So I just come here and increase the width of the list size to 9999. And maybe just go to settings, format list, choose fields. I uncheck everything and just choose business partner ID and apply. And you see there are lots of business partner IDs, but I do not really know why it's saying not right. But let me just pass one more time.
So add leading zeros to that.
How many leading zeros? There is one leading zero here now.
One.
Let me try. I just make a call now, say send. It hits the breakpoint one more time. Let's see if it works. Let's see the return, and now you got one return parameter, and it's again an error. Consumer problem, supplier ID and supplier name do not match. So that's the problem. Supplier ID and supplier name is not matching now. So let's pass the right supplier name. We see it was SAP, and for this 14, I don't know what's the right supplier name. Let's check in the database table one more time for this 14. The name of the supplier is this one, Evan Ideon. So let me try passing the right data. I am very close to it. So let's pass this and do a send one more time. It hits the breakpoint again. Let's just do an F6. We got one more return this time. And this again error. Now persisting the BO has been failed. And I think this happens because of type code, because we have not passed the type code yet. That's what is going empty. See guys, type code is going empty. So I don't know what should be the right type code. Maybe just check one more time the get request. Are we passing type code here? No, we are not passing. Let's look at in the database table some sample type code, and maybe we can use that type code to pass. That's why it's failing, I guess. So debugging really helps you a lot. So I will now see the product table. So every table for BPM model starts with SNWD, and you can see here, you'll see that the product table as well. So it's BP, EPM. Let me check the product table name. Yes, here it is, product table. And let's see, do we have type code here? Here it is, you see. Let me pick up the type code for any of the product to check. It's PR. Let me hard code the type code as PR into my class. Hmm? Mhm. Save this. It's activated. And let's try one more time. Hope to see some response this time again. Now we were already in the debugger. Make a send request one more time. And let's see. You can see the code is updated. It's calling the PR now. So you also get the type code as well as part of your header data which is being supplied. Let's see one more time the return parameter, and this time, wow, you see the return is empty, which means it has successfully created the product guys in the system. Let me check what was the product ID we really supplied. It was DD9999. So I'm sure it should have got created in the system. Let's first check in the database table. I can directly check in the database table if the product is created DD19999. F8 and voila, you see it really created my product in the database table. Yeah, that's what we really wanted. You can also come back and check here at the bottom. It is returning back you the data. And now the magical part is if you refresh your Fiori app, I am sure we should be able to find the product over here as well. Let's try it out because it's already connected to the same OData service. Okay, there's an error. That's okay. And I search for DD, press display. It's not searching by product ID guys. So DD, it's looking, I think, in the description in searching. So description was Anubhav. And voila, you see, my product is available. This is the supplier DD9999 and the product name was Anubhav. Yeah, so it got created in the system. Now, same thing you can really achieve by making a call from here. You can see there's this add button. We can click on this add button, and when you click on the add button, we are anyways making a post call to the backend system. Yesterday I showed you how to do that. So let me just make a post call to the system. I say plus, and there has to be network call which should go from your front end to the backend. Okay, there's an error now. Let's see what's the error. Copy everything to the notepad to see. Method product create entity set not implemented. Can anybody tell me what's this? What is this reason is for? Why it is still saying create entity is it's saying that create entity is not implemented. Why? Anybody? What is the reason it's saying that? Anyone? Why it's saying created? Just now we saw from the postman. Absolutely correct. Our service name is still the standard service name guys. So we got to now change it to the service name which we have created a Z service out of standard service. So this is the service name. Let me pick up the whole service name from here, copy this, go to the manifest.json file, and there we got to put this service name over here. Save this. Let's try one more time, come back, And remember, yesterday we coded this with some hard coded data. We also have to change the payload, guys, because the payload is different. Yeah, the payload which we used was different, and this payload is different because, yeah, so we just got to go back and look at the payload again. Yeah, so this is the payload. I copy this payload, and now we go back to Fiori app. The moment you click on plus button, we are actually making a call to it. So come to web IDE, and we have a controller, the master controller, I guess, where we click on plus button, add button, and then it's really sending a request to the post. So come down. Let's see, we should have a code for the add button over here, which we coded yesterday. So just the payload, I will change it. We're going to make a call to the OData service. So you all know that you can really create an input fields, and with that input field you can really map the data from the screen to the service. That's pretty simple. You can really do that. So I'm not showing you that, but instead I'll just show you changing this payload and making a call from Fiori app so that it creates the product for you. So let's go and check. Here it is. You see the payload. I just put it over here, and I'll change the product ID to something else. Let me just change the product ID to RR9999, and I say the name of the product Fiori app, and I say short description created by web IDE call. Long description is web IDE testing, and that's it. Right now I don't change anything else. Fine. So this is the call which we are making to create a post operation on entity set products and making a payload also to it. Save this. Let's come back and test, guys. Just refresh the page. The moment you click on plus button now, it should make a call to your OData service, and it should create the product YY9999 into the system from Fiori app. So always a good practice for us to test such calls from the Postman plugin. Make sure that your payload is correct because you tested it, and then you really moving to do the stuff later point of time. Fine. So let's try this out. It's loading still. We will also see a delete call. How can you really delete the data? Right now the method is also not implemented. We will do that. So there you go. It's loading up. No problem. Now let me click on plus button. Before that, clear the network and click on plus button. Watch carefully. Click on plus button, and you see there's a call going to the backend. See $batch call, and it also hit your breakpoint, guys. See, it has hit your breakpoint of your implementation. So it creates the product, I guess. I press F6, and you see the it says accepted 202. Yeah, and you can also look at the response. I think it has created the product, newly created product. Let's search for that. What was the description I gave? Web ID was there into it. And yes, RR9999 created by web ID call 956 euros. You see, guys, from the Fiori app, we have created successfully an entry into our database through the service. So how the call goes is goes through the OData model to the gateway, to the service, to the DPC extension, to the method, to the BAPI, to the actual API layer of the product, to the database table, and then it persists the data and response comes back to you from the Fiori app. So that's how you can implement an end-to-end post from your custom Fiori app. Of course, you have a nice simple form created. In that form, you can ask user to supply in all the data, and that data you can read before making your payload. Yeah, and then based on that, you can really create a post request to the database. Let's try to see a delete request. So what I want is I select a product. The moment I select a product and click on delete button, I want to delete that particular product from database table. So first of all, we need to implement the service now. So come back over here in the DPC extension and try to implement the delete method. Yeah. So here is the delete entity method. I just go for re-implementation. And what I'm going to do is call the function module papi underscore EPM product delete, and it just accepts a product ID, of course, because that's the product I want to delete. I just declare this local variable. All your ABAP knowledge will help you guys to code such things. Papi PM product ID is the data type. And now what I'm going to do is I should read the values. So you see IT key tab, that's your data type. It will receive the values. Let's read this IT key tab. And just map it to product ID. That's it. My delete method implementation. Save this, do a check, do a activate. Delete method is implemented in the gateway. Now let me try to show you deletion first from the Postman. So this is always a good practice, guys. You're creating something, you can directly test it from the Postman plugin, and with that you can later point of time go back and do it from Fiori app. So if this way you are following the design, this way you are really doing the things, you will never end up into problems because you know exactly. Same thing, you got to do it from Fiori app. So for deletion is a very simple thing. You got to use the name of the entity set, and in the parenthesis you got to pass its key. So I want to delete this earlier created product called DD9999, which was earlier there in the database. Let's see this product in the database table. You see it's here, DD9999. It's available. Now I just from the Postman I'm making a delete call. Yeah, so just change here the call type as delete operation on no data, and you don't need any payload, guys, in this case. Yeah, you need XCRSR of token, but you don't need any payload. You just need the entity set name, and in the parenthesis pass its key. Click on send, and I guess it should delete. It should have got deleted. Let's go back and check in database table. I come back and just do a refresh on my database table to see if the record got deleted. Boom, there you go. The record is got deleted from the system. So now you got to perform the same thing um, in terms of your Fiori app. So first of all, user has to choose. User has to really select the product which user would like to delete, right? So you got to select the product which user would like to delete, and then you got to provide an, let's say the Superman button I will click and delete. So when they click on Superman button, you got to read the product ID from here and then supply this product ID in a delete call. Let me show you how you can read it. So first of all, we have to have an action for this button. So we created yesterday this button in the master view. So where is my master view? I would rather close all the other things because they are really confusing for me. This is a good tactics. If you really want to develop well without mistakes, don't let many windows open. They will really confuse you, and even when you're really working with multiple projects, you will see so many tabs open and you may do a mess into some files of another project by considering it has to be part of the same project which you're working with. So be very careful when you're editing the file. And my recommendation, what I personally do is, what my recommendation is, don't let many tabs open. They are always confusing, and that's why at the same time in Windows also I don't let many window open at the bottom in my taskbar. So this really helps me to organize and don't let me do multiple mistakes or changing something which I really don't want to. So this is one, just my thought about it. So now I go to the view and look at where I have created the button. So it was done yesterday in the bottom. Um Here it is, Superman button. We did not added any action for that. Let's add a press action, and I say delete product. Follow the JavaScript naming convention. D has to be small. Next consecutive word first letter is capital. Delete product, and let's implement this in the controller. No payload is required for delete request. Function, curly braces, and now let's use the model object here. This is how you get the model object, and say model dot delete. What I want to delete is slash products, and now the catch is, guys, I need the product ID. Yeah, so I need the product ID to be passed. Okay, so I have to pass the product ID. So that's what you need to do now. So you just have to do a curly braces. Okay, now if you are confused, you don't know what to type, where to type, you can always refer to the documentation. Now, one more important thing, this is it all uses OData V2 model. Okay, there are two types of OData models. One is called OData model and one is called OData V2 model. When you generate a project from SAP Web IDE using latest Fiori libraries, it always generate using OData V2 model. So just look at the documentation.sap.ui.model.v2.odata model. Yes, you can see here, and look at its documentation over here. So documentation is really good in terms of the APIs. Yeah, so you can just check here the documentation for this V2 OData model, and just see the delete API, what exactly the signature for that delete API is. Yeah, maybe I think it's taking me to the developer center. I don't want that. I want specifically the documentation only for SAP UI model OData V2 model. So for that, there is a different link. Let's go back to the Google for that. This is really slow today. So just let's search once again, and I think we have it here. Okay, again, I think it's taking to developer guide only. No problem. And now you can see this O2 V2 OData model. Let's search for delete. And here you have delete created by, let's search next. Remove. So remove is the API, guys, not the delete. Okay, remove is the API. So trigger a delete request from OData service that was specified in the model constructor. So that's what you need to use, remove, not the delete. And now you see in these parameters, then you have a context, you have success, error, all these things you can really pass in. So the context is actually an object which contains the parameters. So you have to now use curly braces and context, and in the context you have to pass the parameter which you really want to delete an OData for. So let's come down, and I just put curly braces, and in this use context, and just pass here the again new object, in this pass the product ID. So let's go back to our OData service. What is the name of the property? Okay, let me check. In OData service, I want to see, call the browser and look at the metadata again. What's the property name for product ID? That's what I want. It's product ID, I is capital. So we got to pass in the context product ID. Come back here. Product ID is equals to the product ID. You need to map it now, guys. So we are making a remove request, not delete request. And what you want to remove is products, curly braces, context. And now once this is a success call, if it goes successfully well, it triggers this function. And in this function, I can just do an alert, or we can also do, guys, a message. Now you remember yesterday I told you about scaffolding. Can anybody explain me what the scaffolding does? What is the use of scaffolding? Anybody? What is the use of scaffolding? Yesterday we talked about it. No one remembers the use of scaffolding? Predefined all the reusable libraries. Okay, it's predefined all the reusable libraries. So if I want to use message box, in last course we saw sap.ui dot jquery.sap.require. So here, yes, the reason why is performance and also duplicate loading of the libraries which are reusable. So in earlier course we use jquery.sap.require to load the message box API, but here you don't have to do that. You can just declare it on the top. You can just say /m.messagebox, and that's it. The API will be loaded. The message box references will be loaded, and it will be captured in the object, which is global within the controller. So now we can just say message. So we are declaring API reference here, and that will be received in this object. Yeah, O message, and I can just come down into my method, and if it is successful, I just show dot maybe an alert, not an alert. Maybe we can say confirm. We can throw confirm message. So let me just. It's very slow, guys. So you can see it's taking a lot of time to refresh. We can call a confirm message and just say wow, deleted successfully. You can also give a toast message if you like, and just say okay. If there is an error, then it's going to give you back an error, and you can see it is an error function. So you got to map it with error, a function again. And now in this we can again throw a message. Oops. Something went wrong. Save this. We are done. Now we got to also pump in this product ID. That's really important. So when user click on delete button, you got to read the selected item. Yeah, which is the selected item in the list. So let's come here and just check it out. The list object. So this is a list control, and you got to get the object of the list control. You can see this ID of the control is being assigned as list. So we can get the object ID. Now in the last course we used to use always sap.ui.getCore. When it comes to this type of project, you can always use this .getView, which gives you the object of the view. Okay, the object of the view of this controller. So right now we are in master controller, so it gives you the object of the view. So this .getView will always give you object of view. In that you will find an API called byId that will give you the object of the list control. So let's get the object of the list control, and with that we can, I think, get selected. I don't see if it shows me the API item, or it gives you the gets and maybe I don't know what to do. Yeah, so maybe I put a debugger after getting the list object, and right now comment out the remove method. Okay, and debug and see which API I can call for the list control to get the ID of the product in the selected product. Yeah, how can I do that? So I put a debugger, come back on the right, and just test it once again. So my debugger will hit the moment I click on Superman button after selecting a product. Yeah, so let's let it load, and I search for web IDE, and here is my product. I select the product RR9999. Now I click on Superman button. So I click on it. It should hit my debugger into the JavaScript code. If my code is correct, let me come to sources and open the controller, master controller, and let's see, delete product. This is the method. I set up a breakpoint and click on Superman. It's not hitting, guys, which means there is something wrong. So delete product method is not hitting. When you're clicking on Superman, there is something wrong. Let's go back and check what's that something wrong. Maybe we have not assigned this delete product to the button. So the button is in the toolbar. Here it is. See, I did a typo. See, it is press action. Yeah, it's a press action, guys. I did pre, which was incorrect. So that was the mistake. I refresh one more time. And now let's click on Superman to check. It now Deep has a question, very valid question. If there are multiple views linked to a controller, it will never happen. Whenever WebIDE generate the code, it always creates one view per controller. It will never happen, and that's what we saw in the last course also. It is possible to have one controller for multiple views, but the standard is one controller per view. That's the standard, and we should all follow standard. Okay, now click on Superman and it is hitting the breakpoint, you can see, and it gets the view object. And oops, it's an error. See, it's throwing an error. Let's click on Superman. So it's giving an error here itself. This dot get view itself is giving an error, I guess. So let me try this dot get view over here in the console. So right click and evaluate in the console. So let's type here. It gets you the object, but does it really giving the least object or not? That is what we need to check. So now get view dot by ID. Yes, it is giving. Then what is the problem? Yes, the problem is I missed var, guys. I missed var. Yeah, so it's giving you the list object. So let's right now put it into O list equals to the whole thing. This is really helpful. You don't need to do sap.ui.get core actually. So let's use this, and you got the list object. O list have got it. Yes, and inside this O list now I am checking get selected item, and see, it doesn't give me anything, which means this API will not help me. Get selected contexts. Can we try this one? It is also giving empty, which means, guys, it's not really giving me the item which I selected. Okay, so maybe there is some other API. Get focus, DOM reference, get focus, footer text, get field group IDs, get swiped item. Let's try this API. Maybe this one may help you. No, nothing is helping us. Maybe we will see get selected item. We already checked it, guys. It's not helping. I think this API is not working because of us. What we did right now, the list is in the mode of single select master. Okay, when you select it, it's in the mode of single select master, or maybe nothing was selected at that point of time. Let me search again WebIDE and select the product. So now I selected the product. Let me try now. Click on Superman and test it here. Get selected item. Yes, you see, it's giving me the selected item. I think I didn't really select it on the screen. That's why it was not working. So I now searched the product, selected the product, and now I'm getting the product over here. Get selected item, it's giving me the product. Now for this, let me just see the properties, what properties it do have inside. Can I somewhere get the value of the product ID? So M properties, and no, here we don't have, guys. So let me just go and check. So we got the selected item, but I am not able to get, let's see here, attributes. Get a binding infos. Or what we can do is we can get the binding context for this selected item. So we use this get selected item and store this list item into another variable, the selected list item. And now I say list item dot get context binding context path, and I get the path now. See guys, I got the path of the selected product. This is the path of the selected product. You see the ID is there inside. And now with this, I can easily get the ID. So I can just say split based on single quote, and it's got 3 parts. And the middle part is always give me the product ID. That's my product ID. I've got it from selected item. Let's use this code now one by one, line by line. We tested it first in the browser and then we are putting this code over here. That's what the power of JavaScript. You can test your code well before putting it into the system because browser directly understand JavaScript. So let's come back to master controller and we are going to now put this code. So first get the list object and get the selected list item. From there get the path of the selected list item where you can find the ID inside. You split that text and get the product ID out of the array. You see it's frozen. That's the biggest problem with Web IDE. It's frozen when you're debugging. It's frozen even in another session you are debugging, it's frozen. Yeah. So we just have to put this code in the notepad first. So let's put here the list item and then here the list item will give you the product ID. Var product. Actually we can directly use this one. So let me just close this, come to another session, select the master controller, and now we have to uncomment our delete code. Toggle the delete code basically. And just put this selection of the list item and put a var which we missed last time. Get the list item and now we have to pass the product ID. So this is the code which gets you the product ID. Let's pass the product ID over here. Save this. We are done. Let's go ahead and test if it really deletes the product from the system or not. I saved it. Come back, refresh the page. We will also just quickly set up a breakpoint guys in our delete method to make sure that it's really hitting the code. So if you're smart, you can really go back and put a breakpoint into your code to make sure that it's really working or not. Yeah. And I choose the product again, the one which I created, Web IDE wala, and I just select the product now and I click on Superman button. It's an error now. Wow. There's an error. Let's check what's the error. Why it is not allowing us to do so. So I come here, see what's the problem. The specified HTTP method is not allowed for the resource identified by data service. So what is happening? System for this OData service doesn't allow delete operation. The OData metadata is not allowing you to perform the delete operation on this particular entity set, product entity set. So the postman, it really don't care about metadata. Postman is just about sending the call. But what SAP OData model does, it reads the metadata from the gateway and based on that, it filters the type of operation you can perform from the OData object to the backend. So I am sure they have restricted the deletion uh, of the OData of the entity set on the OData metadata level. So we got to change it now. So let's come back to our project in SEGW and we should basically overwrite what is standard has restricted. So I come back to data model and select my product entity type, and I think here we must have some property which can control the deletion. Let me check which property we can really say entity sets. Yes, you can see I just go for change read only mode. Okay, let's go for change and change here as well. Why it's in read only mode? So this is my entity set products. So basically I want to change for this. So I will click on this redefine attributes, and I don't have this delete enabled still. There is some problem. Just select products. It's not allowing me to support the delete. Why? See, I can't overwrite this. So you can see here this deletable is not checked, not marked true. Okay, maybe I just come back SEGW, and if it doesn't allow me, I can programmatically probably try changing this. Okay, so we will see how to programmatically change this if it doesn't allow me here. No, it's not allowing me, guys. So can anybody tell me which class controls the metadata of OData service? Which class controls the metadata of OData service in gateway system? Anybody? Which class controls the metadata, not the model class? There were only two classes we discussed in last course. If you remember, one of the chapter I talked about media resources. There, in order to change the metadata, we used one of the class. MPC class, perfect answer. So let's try. I'm not sure, guys. This is first time I am encountering this kind of scenario. Uh, I feel there has to be some API which I can make use in MPC class and override the standard. So let me go to the MPC extension and somehow write some code to tell the system that we should allow deletion for this particular OData service. So now let me come here to this and just override this define method into the class, into the MPC extension class. So override this define method, and now first of all you have to call the super class define method. This is very important. If you, otherwise nothing will work. So you have to call the super class method, and now you can really uh, test or control the object. So me, and I can just reference model, get entity set, and entity set name is products, and let's see, is there any method? Set creatable, set deletable. Yes, this is the API. Let me try using this. I'm not sure, guys, whether it will work. So what I'm doing programmatically, I'm controlling the metadata and telling the system for this OData service, for this entity set products, deletable is made as true. Default value goes true. So call set deletable method, which sets the deletable for the products entity set as true. So the OData model, when it's loaded, it considers it as true. Okay, so now that's what we are doing. Okay, yes, from the postman delete security is not applicable because we are not using any data model there. Here we are relying completely on an object. What is that object? That object is the object of SAP OData model object, which is very strict in nature. It completely works. You can see get model. This is the OData model object. We are relying to perform operations. In Postman, we are just making a call, direct REST calls to the service. But here, all the calls have been sent to the backend system, to the gateway system by this model object. So this model object really does not allow you to do something on top of metadata. It reads the metadata of the OData service and see what server supports. And according to that only it sends your request. Otherwise it will reject your request on the client side itself. So now I change the metadata through the programming in MPC extension, and let's see if it really allows me. I never tried this scenario. First time I saw this problem, and I one idea came in my mind that probably this can really help us. Yeah, so let me just come Web IDE again, select the product, remember RR9999, click on Superman, and again an error comes. What is the error? Let's see, copy this. It didn't hit the breakpoint, which means there may be the same error. It didn't really hit the breakpoint, guys. So I feel it's the same error. Yes, again saying it is not allowed. This could possibly be happen that the metadata did not really load again. Okay, so what you need to do in such cases, if you know little more cautious about it, you need to go back to the gateway system and refresh the metadata for the OData service. I'll show you where. Go back and open transaction slash n slash iwfnd slash mint service, and here you got to be little cautious and refresh the metadata for your OData service one more time. Let's search for EPM. The one which we created is at the bottom. Here it is. Select the service and say load metadata again. Okay. Reload service metadata. Perfect. Cool. Refresh catalog. Cool. Come back to the Fiori app also. Press F12. So basically we are just flushing all the caches out. So it has to reload everything from the scratch. It should not rely on the something which is already cached in the browser or something which is cached in the on the server side into the gateway layer. Yeah. So Web IDE again. Where it is? I think it has deleted, guys. I think it has deleted. No, it's there. I think it's case sensitive search. So it's there, RR9999. Let's try one more time, Superman. Again, the error is coming. So I think this is not supported. It's not really working out. So it's not supported, I think. I think there's an error, guys. See, now there's another error. See, I think it worked. It worked. We got into another error now. Let me just paste the error and see what's the error. No, it's not supported. Specify HTTP method is not allowing to resource to identify by data service. It's still not allowed, guys. It's still not working. Let me go back and try one more time to see if it is really not allowed. Maybe we go back to SEGW and open up the actual project. And go to the entity sets. And you can see, guys, delete is not allowed for products. But I don't think so if I can change the standard implementation. I think it should allow for the custom one. I'm wondering why this server is not allowing me to change, change here the settings. Ideally, it should allow us to override these settings. See, it's behaving little weird. I go for change mode, select products and say overwrite redefine attributes, but it's not enabling this delete option. Yeah, otherwise I would have simply checked this checkbox and would have allowed this delete operation for this. Yeah, even create is not marked, but if you look at the base class, which is the base service, you see create is marked for product. Okay, it's not marked but it's still working. What is this add? Addressable. Yeah, create is supported, but I'm wondering why delete is not supported, though the create is not marked. So we tried all the possible ways, but it's somehow not allowing the delete. So this is something which is a restriction from the service side, not from our side. So we have already done the code. Maybe you guys can go back and check if there is any entity set which you are working with in your project. Then maybe you can try it. And you see there's an error coming which we coded. Oops, something went wrong. This is the error which we coded when the call fails. Yeah, so such kind of error handling you can really do it. So this is all about the processing of your delete request, maybe something which is already supported. will work. Okay, so now what we are going to do next, we will go ahead and deploy this application into the actual ABAP system, and we will make a tile for this to give an access to our user. So we created a simple application which supports an add and delete, maybe our custom Fiori app. So now it's time for us to give an access to the end user with this custom Fiori app. Remember guys, everything is custom. So you have to create a custom catalog, you have to create a custom group, you have to deploy this app, you have to create a custom semantic object, and then add this tile to the launchpad for end user to access. And same applies to enhancements also. If you have enhanced an app, you got to deploy it to the user, you want to give an access to the user, you got to do the same thing. So let me show you how to deploy this into a BAP system. Right click here, say deploy a BAP system repository, deploy as a new application first time, select your system. It's not showing me my systems. Why? Let me just refresh the page, refresh the web IDE. Why it's not showing me my systems? So basically I will now deploy this app into the system. So I just try now, right click, deploy a BAP repository. Okay, it's not showing me systems guys, I don't know. S4H maybe I type. Okay, it's not at all showing me the systems. I think the problem is the options which we have added to our file. Let me show you again the options which we have added to the file. So if you remember our discussion while adding a destination, what are all the different options we have? So if I come back here, you can see what are all the different options we do have. For OData, for gateway OData, for executing the UI5 apps in the BAP repository, dev ABAP. Any extensibility scenario, you have to add this option dev ABAP and UI5 execute ABAP. These two options you have to add to your system. Then only that system I think will be visible. So let's go back to our web IDE settings for that particular system. So I go back to my web IDE folder where I have created my destinations. So my web IDE, Eclipse, destinations. Let me change again the extension to txt file so that I can edit this, and double click, and you can see it's just OData gen and OData ABAP. Put comma and add these options as well. So UI5 execute ABAP and dev underscore ABAP. These two options I will add. Save this and change this back to the normal file. Remove the txt extension and reload, maybe restart the Orion server and restart my web IDE, of course. So I will restart my Orion one more time. Yeah, and just quickly restart your web IDE. So let's see now if we do get that system in the list of systems for deployment options. So it restarted the Orion server, right click, deploy a BAP system repository, and wow, you can see your S4HANA system is now available in the web IDE. So this is one common mistake which we all do, and we may wonder why our system is not available. So now you can see this is the solution. These options really make sense. Yeah, what you add to your destination, what you should supposed to allow users, the web IDE users, your developers to really can do stuff with web IDE. Yeah. Now it's asking the username password. So I got to pick up the username. Say log on and deploying it as a new application, guys. So deploy it as a new application. Say next. Let's give the name for this application. Say Z custom Fiori app. Description, welcome to new Fiori. Now, one major problem probably you getting into is the version incompatibility. The Fiori app which you developed in Web IDE is using 1.36, but the Fiori app, the version of UI5 in the server may be different. So let me just come to the launchpad of this server, do Control Alt Shift P to check the version of UI5 library over here. Control Alt Shift P is what you need to type in. Okay, it's asking authentication, so just enter the authentication. I think it's loading up the details. It'll take some time, I guess. Let's see. It'll take a little bit of time to show me the version. Probably will wait. Okay, so maybe right now just we go ahead and delete it, deploy it. Let's browse the package, and I want to deploy this in the local object, so $tmp. And you can see $tmp over here. It's very simple process deploying it to the web system. So now it started deploying my entire app into the server with the name which I've given Z demo or Z whatever Z application name, and it will create it as a BSP application. Any Fiori app in the web server will be created as a BSP. You can see message have come, application has been deployed. Let's go back to the server, and now we can come to SC80 transaction, go to my local objects for my user, and you can see BSP library. Only one BSP application is there, which is ours, Z Custom Fiori app. It's available now, and I can directly do a test on this. So say execute. Okay, looks like I don't have an index.html file, guys, in this. Because of that, I think I won't be able to test it. Okay, you see there's no index.html file. Now maybe we will try with another file. If we do have something, we don't have anything. So we have to probably create one index.html file so that it can be really tested. So let me do that. I want to create an index.html file. Now this index.html file should be similar to what we learned in the previous course. So let me go back and make you recall, when you create a Fiori app in the app system, how can you really create the index.html file. So now I come back to my Eclipse, click on create, and create a UI5 application project. And let me just give some name, say demo, and I just uncheck initial view and say finish. It creates an index.html file for me. Similar file I'm going to create in Web IDE now. Okay, so let's do this. What is this? Some error coming. It's not even showing me the error. Let me check. I think it's because of Java compiler version. Go to preferences, and now I say Java compiler, and it's correct only. It's correct. What's the problem? Did it really created the project, I guess? Yes, it has created, I think. But it didn't create index.html. So maybe I try one more time, creating a new project of type UI5. Sample. Next. Finish. There is an error coming in Eclipse, but it's not also showing me what's the error. There's no finish. This is the biggest problem with the systems. There is an error, but it doesn't really show me. Okay, let me close Eclipse and reopen Eclipse in the server. So I do have Eclipse Kepler as well. So let me try with the Kepler. Now it seems that there is a Java error. Let me try. So basically I need an index.html file in the server also to test it locally in the server. Okay, that's what I'm trying to see. So let me check if I can generate this index.html, guys. That's my main requirement. Yeah, looks like after restarting it seems to be working. It should create now an index HTML for me. So I will also show you right after this how to take out a web IDE project into Eclipse, because sometimes in your company, let's say they don't use or they don't want to use Eclipse, sorry, don't want to use web IDE because it doesn't have a support for Java based applications, also like Maven based projects, which typically every company do have. So what will you do in such cases? You need to use Eclipse. So we will talk about it in a while. Now you see it has created index.html. We got to use the same index.html now. But the catch is you have to use the component.js to run the app, right? So you all remember how did we do that in the last course? So we have created a component container, and in that we deployed our components. So we use var o component container equals to new sap.m dot sorry SAP UI core component container, and in this we have added the name of our component. Yeah, and then we have just placed this o component container to the content. That's what we did in the last course. Same thing we will do now here. So let me just copy this code and put this as index.html in my web IDE. Okay, so let's go back, come here and create a new file. Name this as index. Oops, I think I should do it in the web app folder, guys, not outside that. Right click inside the web app folder, index.html. I created it. I paste the entire code from Eclipse. You have to use resources. There is no way out it. You have to use resources. Okay. And now you got to remove this line from here, but you have to use one line if you remember the path of the folder, which you have to mention data hyphen SAP hyphen UI hyphen resource roots. I forgot what was the name of that, guys. Let me check it. Let me check it on internet. SAP index HTML resource root for index file data hyphen UI resource roots. Yes, I was correct. So it is data hyphen SAP UI resource roots equals to the path of the folder, basically namespace and the current directory. This is what you have to put in your index.html file. This is what we put to build the folder structure in the last course. And here you have to get your namespace done. So remember our namespace what we gave yesterday? It was ibm.tpm. This was the namespace we gave. So the name of the component also is ibm.tpm, where it is present. Save this. We are done. We are done. Let's deploy this. Right click and say deploy. Again back to ABAP repository. This time update the existing application. Did I do some typo? Let me check. What typo did I do? Ah, TPM. Sorry. Save it. Deploy to ABAP repository. Update the existing one. And now you can give the name of your app which you created earlier. So it was Z custom Fiori app. Here it is. Say next. It should update now the latest files as per your project to the gateway system. Click on OK. Deployment is in process. You can see on the top what's going on, and it's completed. Let's come back to our web application in the server. Refresh the app, and you must have got the index.html now. Yes, you can see index.html file. Now what I'm going to do is say execute, and it should now launch the browser for me with this index.html file and try to load the component JS which we have inside the project into the server. So let's see. Okay, server is little busy. Let's wait for server to respond. It should now launch the browser, this index.html file, and this file is pointing to the local resources, local SAP UI5 resources in the server, and then the namespace for that we have picked up as ibm.tpm for the root folder. Yeah, and let's see if there is any error with respect to this, we will get to know in the console, and then we will accordingly adjust this. Yeah, so okay, it's kind of little busy. Server has gone little busy now. Let's wait for it to respond. Okay, it's again working. Let me execute. Why it is not launching? I don't know. Ideally, it should launch. The action cannot be completed because other program is busy. Switch to activate the busy program. Why it is busy? I don't know. Let me check. Try one more time. Yes, now it's giving me the launch permissions and it's trying to launch the index.html file. You can see this is what is bare minimum for you to test in the server, your changes. Press F12 to make sure that there are no errors in the console, and looks like it's really loading up, guys. You can see currently no products are available, which means there has to be some call which might have failed. Let's look at in the console. No, it didn't fail. And you can see your Superman button. Yeah, your Superman button is there. So this is a typical case of, like I was mentioning, the latest UI5 version, and in the server you have a different UI5 version. So that's why I think it's really not working. It's not able to call the OData service and pull the data from the database because it uses OData v2 model, but your server is on pretty old SAP library version. Hence it cannot make use of OData model. Yeah, this is a typical case. So maybe I will quickly go back and try to create another custom app with lower version of SAP UI5 library and deploy it quickly into the server and show you how to use it. Yeah, so let's try one more time. Quickly create a new project from template again and use the same thing, but this time choose the lower version relatively. Yeah, so maybe I use this one, SAP UI5 1.28. I expect this has to be there in the server at least, and choose Z new Fiori app. Click on next. I'm going to pick up the server S4HANA system and my EPM service, which I created a custom service. Here it is. Say next, and I say products app IBM dot. Now I choose TPO, a different namespace, guys. TPO is what I'm choosing, IBM TPO, and just again do the same stuff. So basically I want to show you deploying a custom app uh, as a tile into the launchpad. That is what our main goal is now. So object identifier is the name of the product. The number is the price. And then we have the currency code. And then next, finish. So now it's on a relatively lower version of UI5. Yeah. So we know the difference now. It typically groups everything together in one single folder. It doesn't have a separate folder, and there are little different versions and different library versions for each Fiori app. Yeah. So how do you know if it's your the correct one? So now we can also test it locally, but our main intention is to deploy it to the server and check it. Now, do you have an index HTML here? No, you don't have. So we got to get that file. So let's copy this index HTML and put it here as well. And just change your namespace from IBM TPM to TPO. That's where your controller exists. Save this. We are done. WebID doesn't produce index HTML, guys. WebID doesn't produce. You have to do it on your own. To BSP application to run in the server, it looks forward for a HTML file in the same folder where your app is. So it doesn't give you the index HTML. That's a drawback of WebIDE. So you need to have the right knowledge to do so. Deploy. Now we are referencing it to TPO. New application I'm deploying in the same system, and we name it as Z Fiori, new Fiori app. Demo for new products. Enter the package. Okay, next, finish. Done. Let's see. Deployment is in process. So you see 1.36 is a pretty higher version, and my S4H system probably won't have this. Maybe we will try this one if it works. So I have got it done. Now let me refresh. We should get the new Fiori app. Here it is. Double click, click on execute, and remember. Let's see what it does. So I close all the other stuff which was open. Just keep this open. Press F12. What's going wrong? And you see there is an error coming. Cannot read property container of undefined. Don't tell me that it doesn't even know the container itself. Okay, let me come back and check. So system is not able to read this container. Oh, comp container, SAP UI. Let me check. Cannot read property container of undefined. Create FLP model. This is the method in init. I think it reached to the component JS, and there it is calling create FLP model, which is where it is stucking. Let me check. Yes, you can see here we are calling create FLP model in models. So here we have a container thing which it is saying cannot use. Here it is. You see SAP usual service. So they are calling SAP usual service and just trying to get the information about the user. Okay, they're creating some model which is it is not recognizing. And why it is not recognizing? Because of this usual service. You remember I told you about the launchpad. You make use of a usual service, and that's what it is trying to use, a usual service, which is not available right now because you're individually running the app. You're not running it with the launchpad, hence it cannot be used. So right now I will comment out this piece of code by just making this commenting out this usual service value to false. Save this, activate the code, and just try one more time. Refresh. Okay, we got to right click and say empty cache and hard reload. Okay, again it's a problem. Why? Though we have cleared it, where it is showing the problem. Now it's in model JS. It is showing somewhere else, guys. Another problem somewhere else. In models.js cannot read property container of undefined. So somewhere else also they are using. You see here. So wherever you have such properties used, it is causing the problem. See here also they are using this usual service. So all this you need to change for time being, of course. I hard code the language to English. Activate. Let's see if somewhere else also they are using this usual service. I will show you the use of this usual service later on. I will also show you how you can really navigate to another Fiori app from using this usual service from Launchpad. So now we give it shot one more time. Let's activate this and try loading one more time. Again, there is a problem. Container of undefined, it is saying. Create FLP model, again it's saying that. So this is all because of this usual service, guys, which is the culprit, because we have not integrated it with Launchpad yet. In Launchpad it will work fine because it will find the usual service there. Do a check. Okay. Now let me check anywhere they are using this usual service in this whole thing. No. Create FLP model. Okay, maybe close this and try one more time. No, it's not working. So maybe what we will do right now, guys, we will try to integrate this with Fiori Launchpad rather than running locally with index HTML. Let me try to make this app available with Fiori Launchpad by creating a custom group and a custom catalog. So what I will do now in the server, I will launch the SAP Fiori Launchpad Designer, and there I will try to create a custom catalog and custom group. Now before that, as you all know, we need to do certain activities in the backend as well, defining a custom semantic object for this app. So this is my app. I would right now just say execute to know its URL, and this is the URL for the app which you need to use to integrate with Launchpad. This URL would be very helpful. So let's go ahead and do that. The first step is you have to come to transaction slash UI2 slash SEMOBJ to define a semantic object for custom semantic object for your app. Let me create a new custom semantic object and I just name it as Anubhav. My custom apps. Save this. You can create it inside a transport. So it reaches to all your quality in production as well. So I created a custom semantic object. Second thing, you need to create a LPD cust entry. Go to LPD cust transaction. Create a new launchpad. Say Z. Just give some role. Maybe you can give some role name. Anything you can pick up. BSPP, you also can use it. I want it as transactional. It's a transactional app, so instance has to be transactional. And then description, my Fiori app group. Click on OK. Yes. You can see it's created a new BSPP role under transactional, a new launchpad LPD cust thing, and let's add an application inside. So I right click and say new application. Let's give the title for app, my custom Fiori app, and the launch has to be based on the URL. And just now I showed you the URL, how to retrieve the URL for the app. It's always the prefix SAPBCUI5 SAP, the Fiori app name. Do not include index HTML. Just mention this. Show the advanced properties, and you have to also add one property here called SAP UI5.component equals to the name of the component, which was IBM.TPO. Save this. So we have created a new custom Fiori app entry as an application in custom launchpad. Okay, and then we also defined a namespace, a semantic object called Anubhav. Now come to your launchpad designer and just create a new SAP Fiori launchpad catalog. Just give the title custom apps, give an ID Z custom, click on save. We are creating a custom catalog. Click on plus and add a static tile for your Fiori app. You can also add a dynamic tile provided you have a service name which returns you the count of products. Maybe right now create a static tile. Create a static tile. Give the title of the tile my products and just give subtitle as my custom app. Give an icon for this. So basically we are doing everything end to end. So suppose you get a custom Fiori app in your project to be deployed to the server. For Fiori Launchpad, you can do in this way. Define a semantic object, define a custom launchpad in the LPD cust, create an application, maintain the URL there, and now here you should use semantic object navigation. Your semantic object is what you should give here, which we created in the backend. You see it's available, and you got to give it action name as a Anubhav display. Ideally, I should have created something called product. Yeah, action name can be anything, whatever you like. Anubhav Spider-Man also I can give. Now, no parameter, no target URL, nothing. Just click on save. A tile will be created on the screen. Now you need to provide the mapping for this. Okay, so come to the target mapping and you need to create a target mapping and choose your semantic object again, Anubhav, and action was Spider-Man. Now you have to choose your Fiori app here. See SAP UI5 Fiori app. Yeah, so you have to mention that title here for the Fiori app. Let's say my products and enter the URL again. So this was the URL. Okay, done. Click on save. We are done with defining a custom app. Configuration no save for target mapping. Why? Validation check failed. Okay, we have to also give an ID for Fiori app F120. Anything you can give actually an ID. It's your choice. Click on save and configuration is also saved. So you define a tile and you define a mapping with your BSP application. Yeah, these two things you've done. Now we are done with definition of our catalog. Z custom is our catalog name. Let's create a group also. So I come to the group and click on plus. Custom apps is the group name. Z custom G_G is the group name. Click on save. And now let's add our tile to this group. So click on plus. You see this is our custom apps catalog. Click on OK and you'll see it's added inside the group. So this is your custom group and then there's one tile into it. Let's create a business, let's create a role now, and this role we will add this catalog and the group into that role and assign that role to our user. So our user can see in the launchpad this group and this tile. And on click of this, it should take you to the actual Fiori app. Yeah. So let's do that. So let's come to the backend. And here we define a role, say Z custom apps. And by the way, guys, this same steps are used when you extend a standard Fiori app. So basically extension means just reusing, but actually at the end of the day it's creating a custom Fiori application. And for that you need to give an access to the end user. You have to do the same steps. Yeah, create a single role, and now we got to add in this role our catalog which we created. So roles for custom or enhanced Fiori apps. Now select here the tile catalog. The name of the catalog was Z custom. You can search for this if you want. Yeah, click on OK. It's added. Let's add the group also. So come here and add the Fiori tile group Z custom underscore G. It's added. Let's come to the authorizations. Quickly go to change and generate an empty profile. It's your choice. You can do it. So let's use a user. Basically, you need to enable this user to talk to the backend RFCs. So that's why I added this user authorization. And now just come to user and add your user here. So it's OFSF user 10. What I'm adding, press enter, do a user comparison. Everything goes green. Save this. So now what we did is for our user, we have added this role, which has the custom tile and custom catalog added. Hence, you will be able to see this custom tile, custom catalog and group on the screen. Save this. We are done. Let's come back to the launchpad and see whether you can see this or not. So I will come and open up the launchpad for S4. This is the launchpad, guys. You can also directly navigate to the app. As you all know, it uses a intent based navigation. So you see this is your hashtag. You can change the hashtag to Anubhav was your semantic object name hyphen. What was the action name? Anybody? If anybody have understood this end-to-end process, what was the name of the action I gave? Spider-Man. So it was Anubhav hyphen Spider-Man, what you can directly use to navigate. Otherwise, you can also come and you will be able to see the app here as well. So let's go for change quickly to see if the app is available, because this is my view now. This is end user's view. So here in the end user's view, you will be able to see the apps. So you should be able to actually see that custom catalog and the custom group. So name of that was custom. So let me search. There are 13 customs found, but it's not selecting any of them. And all custom comes. Yes, you can see guys, custom apps and my products, my custom app, the tile got created. Now I click on the tile and it should now launch. Okay, there is a problem with the app itself. It's not able to launch, but yes, you can see the tile has got created. Now this is something which I need to check back, guys, why it is not loading. Of course, I need to also look back into the system, why we were unable to run the application with the help of index HTML. So this is something I will check offline and get back to you on this, why it's not running from index HTML also. This is something I need to check maybe. Yeah, this could be a server issue. This could be an issue with our data. This could be an issue with UI5 version. It could be anything. I may have to go back and check this thing. Yeah, so give me some time. I will check that out. Okay, where is my app? Here it is. Okay, so let me just say run. Last try we will do. You see it's causing a problem because of this container of undefined. Maybe I need to check it. Let's give one last shot again. Maybe this server is even on a very old UI. Okay, let me give a last shot, guys. Just give me a second. I'll try to create one more Fiori app with the oldest UI, the oldest UI5 version. Let me try new project from template. It won't take much time. I expand it and maybe I go with master detail deprecated. Okay, this is master detail deprecated 1.0.1. So pretty old version of your Fiori library. And I just say Z old Fiori. We'll try quickly and check if that's the issue. And just choose the service. Again, EPM. It won't take much time to quickly create it. SAM project namespace is IBM old. Title is products. OData collection is products. Item title is name. Numeric attribute is price. Unit of measurement is currency code. We don't want other attributes, so let's leave everything empty. Say next, finish, and let's quickly deploy it into the server. Right click, deploy in a web server, deploy as a new application. Okay, let me quickly create as a index.html file in this. So I come here, guys, and you see, guys, index.html is already there. It's a pretty old template, yeah, and index.html is already there in this. I think this is what will work with our server. The server is in very old version of UI5 framework. So this is the kind of format it would work with. Okay, let me try. I think I'm 100% sure it's a UI5 versioning issue in the server. That's why in the server it is not working. With WebID it will work. And this is a big catch, guys, for all of us. Okay, so be very sure when you're creating an app, custom app in the web IDE, it may not work with your server. So immediately you deploy and check it. Okay, now I'm deploying it as a new app, and I would just name it Z old Fiori app. Fiori app $temp is what I'm going to select. This is also capital TMP. Next. So basically, finally, we are trying a very old template using WebID. Now, this is a very critical point. You need to make sure, because sometimes most of the servers are on a very old version of UI5. It may not work. So make sure that you don't spend effort if if you really cannot make it work with server. Yeah. So now we have got it. So let's see if the app have come. Yes, old Fiori app have come. Double click on this and click on execute here. Remember, and I say run. You see it's running with server s4hana 1v2erp.com. That's the server address. Let's see if it runs or not. So the new version of UI5 would be the culprit for your app to not run in the server, and voila, finally it's running up, guys, in the server. You can see it's working fine, absolutely fine. And I think it does have your product also. Web IDE was the name we have given. No, or was it Anubhav? What was the name of the product we created? I don't remember. So maybe, but you can see it's actually calling up and creating. So make sure that, and believe me, most of the servers are very old. The UI5 version is pretty old. You should always go with the one which is deprecated. Yeah, WebID would always try to create app with the latest UI5 version. But make sure your UI5 version is correct in the server. You can again use Control Alt Shift P to quickly go and check what is the version of SAP UI5 in your server. You see, okay, here it's showing 1.38.6, but I'm wondering why it was not working when we created with the latest version. But with the old version, when we created, it's working out. So it shows according to this, the server is on 1.38, but the one which we deployed, which was using 1.36, did not really fit and work. So maybe I will check these ones also. why they are not working, but the one which we deployed with the older versions is now working in the server. Yeah, so that's what you can really use. So maybe I'll just quickly use this URL now and put this in our target mapping for the launchpad configuration. Yeah, so let me just do that. In our configuration for target mapping, I am going to put this Fiori app. Let me just do that here. Click on save and let's test it with the launchpad. Where is my launchpad? Yeah, here it is. I just refresh my launchpad. So we will be launching our Fiori, custom Fiori app now. I updated the target mapping. It will take some time. Maybe we can try directly with tag name Anubhav Spiderman. Press enter. No, still not working. So there is some problem. I may need to check back, guys. Why it is not working? So the one which we have created will come at the end. This user has been given all the roles. All the roles have been given to this user. That's why you see the launchpad is pretty big. Okay, so maybe I will check this, why it's not working with launchpad and get back to you. So, and also we will check, even though the server is on latest version, but why it's not working. Okay, maybe we'll change here also. Yes, I did not change in LPD cust. You're right. So I'll change in LPD cust also. And then try, yeah. Fine, let's try this. Changing in LPD cust also and try. What was the name we gave it? BSPP, right? BSPP transactional. My Fiori app group. Here it was, and I'll change it here. Yeah, correct. Let's try. Last time we'll try, guys. I don't think so it will work, but we will just give a shot. Reload the launchpad. No, it's not working. Maybe I need to check back, guys. Give me some time. And also, as we saw, the version of SAP UI5 is actually latest, but still 1.36, the one which we created with 1.36 is not working. That I also have to cross check. Okay, so give me some time, and maybe that is not working because of index HTML. So because if you see, the one index HTML which is generated here is different than what we created. So we created index HTML manually. That could be one reason why it is not working. So maybe I will check in this server and get back to you why it was not working. So give me some time for that. In the next session, will complete this integration with Launchpad. I will show you the usual service to navigate to another app. We will see how to now use this Fiori app with Eclipse and the Git repository. And after that, we'll have one more session with analytical app using KPI tile, and we will also discuss about um, workflow integration with Fiori. So these 6 topics are remaining, which we will complete next weekend, and hopefully by next Sunday the course will be completed. So till then, thank you so much. See you in the next weekend. Goodbye.